We are glad you could be with us today. We've got literally hundreds of people here from all over the country, and really excited to present to you our Fuel Your Business webinar. This is our final installment of the webinar, and we saved the best for last. A couple of housekeeping questions before we get going. Please submit any questions through the Q&A tab and not through chat. And we, myself and my colleague Nick Budasavljevic, will be monitoring the Q&A pane for any questions that come through. We'll answer them live, and we will also relay them over to Brian as we're making our way through the presentation. But I am super excited that we're here. We are focusing today on the top 5 ways to convert your prospects. We've had a number of different topics that we've covered. By your participation today, it sounds like we're continuing to deliver value, and I think you're going to get a lot of valuable insights, and you'll be able to learn a lot from Brian. He's super experienced, has a ton of experience in the space, acting as a broker owner, acting as a technology specialist, and one of our strategy executives here at Inside Real Estate. Brian today is going to cover kind of the top 5 list: understanding traffic, lead capture and follow-up. He's going to give a really powerful universal intro script. He's going to be talking about how to create and segment and bucket prospects for successful mining and farming and other activities and nurturing. Then he's going to talk about, something that not a lot of people think about, but is really key to success, and that is creating a schedule so that you can make space for nurturing your leads and using kvCORE as part of your workflow.
Hey, Yank, how's it going?
Good, Brian. Glad you could join us. I'm just going through these intro bullet points, and then
Perfect.
Finally, Brian's going to touch on focusing on growing prospect data and adding to your prospect funnels. So, Brian, I'm going to turn the screen sharing over to you, and
Cool.
then we'll get going. Does that sound good?
Well, let's stay right here for the time
Okay.
being, and then when I'm ready, we'll kind of start. Nick,
Perfect.
Hank, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
A couple things. So I've been doing this topic for a long, long time. As you know, I've been in the space for over 17 years and have worked with agents on millions of leads, from prospects to Sphere to everybody. Some of the people listening in, I'm one of the key strategy executives. I'm an executive VP for the company, and I have a lot of background in the marketing and lead gen space within real estate. I've done a lot of coaching and training. So one of the things that I've learned in this space, and often talking to agents, is they do not set themselves up with the right process in place. And what I mean by that is there's really a formula, Hank, for success. And it's not a formula for success just in real estate. As you can, when I go through this, I'm sure you, from your experience, you can give some backstory into or relate to this. But essentially there's something out in the workforce today in real estate called click funneling. Click funneling is a term that people are using today, but essentially it's making sure that whatever traffic, whatever lead capture, whether it be Sphere, farming, postcards, your voicemail, your emails on your signature line, okay? So in other words, when a realtor walks out the door, Hank, and hands a business card out, they're creating a click funnel, a chance to convert a prospect opportunity. And agents do not put themselves in a position to maximize the top ways to convert that person to a potential opportunity down the road. And so what we want to do is really make sure that after this call that they have the formula for success. They know how that formula will bucket the prospects in an appropriate way, and that we're going to go through the CRM to show them that. And most importantly, that they have a script to convert people from short-term leads and long-term leads into qualified opportunities for them at a much higher rate. Okay. And then we're going to talk about a couple of marketing tools that we have within our program to achieve the best quality prospect opportunities right now. We'll show them some marketplace items to achieve that. Does that sound good? Okay. So ready to get started. So Hank, I'd love to play off of you, but the first thing,
Yeah.
let's get that agent in here as
Should we
well.
get, let's get Mary Beth here. I'll get her ready to go. Mary Beth Cogswell, now is your moment to shine. Your 15 minutes of fame have come. And Mary Beth, we really appreciate you being with us today.
Hi,
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
How are you? Or Mary Beth?
I'm
Do you go by
good.
Mary or Mary Beth?
I go by Mary Beth.
Nice to meet you, Mary Beth. So, so what we're going to talk about is making sure that every breath or every ounce of your being as an agent is going to be more effective at converting leads today. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the first thing we're going to do, and you don't have to write this down. If you choose to, Mary Beth, feel free to write it down. But we're going to start off by a formula for success. And that means that traffic times lead capture times follow-up equals money. So the starting point of the top 5 is number 1 on the list is to understand that formula. So Mary Beth, how long have you been a real estate agent?
14 years.
14 years. So like me in the space, when I bought my first house, I didn't have the internet. I got a bunch of listings from a list book. And I mean, you might have used a list book at some point, maybe, I'm not sure. But the point being is that it was a different business, but it was the same. So what we always want to do is understand that we are not in a leads business. So the first step in understanding we're in the traffic business, which means you're in the people business. Would you agree with that in your experience in real estate?
Very much so.
So the fatal flaw on number 1 of this formula is that we assume that we're trying to find somebody that wants to buy and sell real estate. Hank, this is the number 1 issue in real estate today because we turned this into a leads business, not a people business. So Mary, everybody's chasing a lead that wants to buy and they're not just collecting people, okay?
Yeah.
So the first thing is traffic means everything that you do. And when you have that traffic, you need to have the right capture tools for that. So for people listening in, the capture tools would be a landing page, a squeeze page, a website page, an IDX link, a market report. You don't have to remember all this. I'll show you in the dashboard, Mary Beth, as we go through this. But I want to make sure that you understand is that your capture tools, kvCORE has more of those for all forms of marketing, including growing your sphere. So understand that traffic is everything you do, okay? And then you have to have the right call to action or capture method that puts them into a predictable follow-up process. So Mary Beth, if you knew that you were targeting teachers, for example, we're just going to use that on Facebook. And teachers have special loan programs, as you know, correct?
Yes.
So if you wanted to go to Facebook and join teacher groups, you would want to send them to a landing page where it said, find out about special loans for teachers. So when they landed on that page, which I'll be showing people through, that traffic then has a way to put in their information to get that information, which automatically kicks them into your CRM as a teacher lead. And Mary Beth, would you say that would be a better lead for you if you were doing that strategy than say buying a bunch of Google leads that might be tire kickers not serious about buying a house?
Yeah, because they're higher quality.
They're higher quality because you're targeting an audience. You have a complete sentence. So the first step of this number 1 step is if you want to convert more leads, you have to have a plan, traffic, lead capture, and follow-up process to identify your means. Sitting around and waiting for a lead to jump in your boat or buying a bunch of paid ads isn't always the right strategy for everybody, Hank. So Mary Beth, this formula is what governs everything. So I'm going to give Mary Beth one more example before we jump into my screen share, okay?
Right.
So Mary Beth, number 1 is traffic. So can I ask you what you like to do, Mary Beth, as a person?
What I like to do as a person, oh, that's broad.
As a hobby, anything.
Yeah, I like to spend time reading and I like to spend time with my child.
Awesome. Now, as we go through this, how old is your child?
12.
12. Are you involved in any sports or activities, or are you involved in any school, PTA, anything like that?
I'm involved in our PTO. I'm involved with
Perfect.
him, with his Lego group, and he does Boy Scouts.
So we're going to talk about a couple things to start, just to illustrate a point on how we can get qualified leads and convert them effectively. And I'm going to have this question I asked you for a reason, because a lot of times it's connecting to the people you have in common, and there's lots of ways to farm and lots of ways to do that. So for example, Mary Beth, let's do a landing page and we're going to organize a PTO fundraiser. You've been to the restaurants and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can volunteer to organize one of those. You can go right into your landing page system. And I've actually specifically done this with an agent, Mary Beth, that generated 8 listing conversions. Okay.
Nice.
PTA, or in your case, PTO fundraiser. Now, this can be an event. 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 That can go into PTO fundraiser hashtag. Okay.
Yep.
And then I can change the background to the school district or a community background, whatever I want. And you can post this on the parent groups and Facebook on your Facebook ad and generate free prospects that are probably better quality and some Google leads, because you go to school with them, you're a parent in the same school district. So what we're going to be talking about is the traffic you decide to go, the school district, Mary Beth, and the parents needs to land on a capture page that then goes into your follow-up capture database specifically tied to your target audience, where now you have a predictable follow-up process. And that's a much better quality way to convert, because you have traffic times lead capture times follow-up dialed in. Instead of trying to look for a buyer or seller, you're just targeting people that go to school with your kids in a way that is valuable to them. Make sense?
Yeah.
Now, you may be doing some of these things, but we want to do them all in converting to a complete sentence. So tip number 1 for this, number 1 on my list of top 5, Mary Beth, is to set aside a day every week to plan out what type of marketing you want to do that week to attract the traffic in the capture page to then generate the leads that you convert that week. Every week you can do something, and there's lots of ways to generate traffic. And then make sure that when you do the different traffic sources, making sure that you have a way to capture them effectively. So for example, and I'm just giving examples, Hank, to people so they understand that everything, not just Nosy Neighbor or some of our PropertyBoost tools that we'll be talking about at the end, that everything they do is the same formula no matter what they do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just that traffic times lead capture times follow-up equals money. That's
it's always
about, right?
The same as the top. So Mary Beth, do you have a business card?
Yes, I do.
On the back of your business card, you know, everybody, because of COVID, is scanning those QR codes now. Everybody does, right? Even I do it. I never did it before, but I do it now. So when you go into your lead engine, why not put a code card scanner on the back of your card, do an instant home evaluation, make that a value prop, instead of every time you hand your card out as a form of traffic. So you better have a lead capture, right? So I'm only trying to inspire everybody here that this formula is your lifeblood of lead capture and conversion. If you do not follow the formula, you will not have success. So in other words, Mary, if you hand your card out with no call to action or capture, or you send an email that doesn't have a signature line, like if you're a home value. So you should think about how you guys are putting yourself in front of somebody to make sure that you have a capture that has a follow-up automation process to it. Everything, door knocking, flyers, mailers, open house app, Hank, everything that we're going to talk about from our lead tools all have built-in capture and built-in formulas. So Mary, when you buy leads or you do Nosy and all of these things with us, that whole formula is built into our strategy, but you need to understand that strategy to be effective. Make sense?
Yes.
Do you find that valuable?
I do.
Okay. So what we're going to talk about and take this to the next step is traffic times lead capture times follow equals money. So the next step after that is to understand that when you have a capture of a lead, that you have to have all forms of communication automated in a way that you are getting value, the right engagement script. So Mary Beth, you need a universal script that works no matter where the lead originates. whether it's a prospect, a sphere, a family member, a friend, a party, meeting somebody in the bar. It does not matter, Mary Beth. Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I say that is we're going to give some eye openers here, Hank. So Mary Beth, let me ask you, do you work with buyers? This is a rhetorical question. Do you work with buyers or sellers? Or both? And so what I want you to understand for everybody here, I've never worked with a buyer or seller. Mary Beth, they're hard to find. They're like the unicorn. I work with homeowners and renters, meaning that everybody you come in contact with, we're not marketing to the homeless. So the first understanding of my keys to top 5 success in a universal script is that every prospect, regardless of their intent to purchase, has the equal value. They're either a homeowner or they're either a renter. Does that make sense, Mary Beth?
Yes.
So if you knew that every lead in your database was one or the other, how much would that affect your conversion of that lead? How much more effective would you be if you knew they were a local homeowner and they were looking at houses to buy potentially? Would that change your entire outlook?
Probably.
And if you knew everybody that was a renter, wouldn't that make it easy to convert them?
You would think.
But we don't think that way, do we? We think buyer and seller. Hank, this is the biggest flaw in lead conversion. We think buyer and seller, so we assume the lead wants to buy. And when we follow up with them, Mary Beth, we push the people that aren't ready to buy a year from now, we devalue them. But
and
how many
we kind of, and the net result that I think that you're trying to hit at, Brian, is that, look, if they're a seller, they are also a buyer. It's not like one or the other, right?
Correct. Everybody's either a homeowner, and homeowners offer multiple commission opportunities. They offer more referrals. So yes, we all want to talk about homeowner marketing, but the point is we're always homeowner marketing, no matter what, Hank. And you're always renter marketing, Beth. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a universal script. We're going to go through it, and then Nick is going to publish in the chat box where to access that script and the recording of this script and the written out explanation of it. This is by far the #1, in my opinion, lead script I've ever used. I use it extensively for expireds, for FSBOs. Mary Beth, you can use it on any type of engagement. And Hank, you know this, I've told this story. I've used this script at a party multiple times to convert somebody into a qualified opportunity for an agent during a party, like a Halloween party, in person without even knowing the person, Mary Beth. Okay. So Mary Beth, you ready? You're going to be my guinea pig. I'm going to call you like a lead, and I don't know anything about you. Cool.
Sure.
And you can give me any type of answer back, and then we'll go through why it works, and then we'll show you where to go to get it. Okay.
Okay.
So Mary Beth, I'm gonna call. Hi, Mary, and hi, Mary Beth. I noticed that you were on a Facebook property search really quick, and you looked at an ad on a property. Hey, by the way, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Brian. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you, Brian.
Hey, I'm really quick. I'm just doing some research right now for you, and I had a quick question. I'm going to let you go. You're a homeowner, right?
I am.
Great. I do a special consultation for homeowners where I show you what your list power analysis versus your buy power. Obviously, if you're a homeowner, you're searching, you're either looking at values or you're looking for other homes that you might want to buy someday. But at the end of the day, you're doing something. Have you ever had a list power analysis?
I have not.
So I'm going to stop right there. Right now, Mary Beth, you're mine. You're in my trap. You can't get out. I offer you value. You don't know what a list power analysis is, but you want one. And you notice I didn't ask you if you want a list. I didn't ask you if you're looking to buy. I didn't ask you how the Zillow link was. None of those things. Because it doesn't matter. I want to know, are you a homeowner or are you a renter first before I even talk to you about qualifying or whether you want to buy something.
Yeah.
So now I know that. This script is universal, Mary Beth, because it can be used in an email. Imagine sending an email that said, hey, if you're a homeowner, I'm going to do a list power analysis for you this week. Would you like it by Friday? Homeowners are more likely to respond positively to that, aren't they?
For sure.
So this script works on phone, email, and texting. Now, I'm going to go through the logistics of it, and then I'm going to pause for questions here, Hank, because I'm assuming that all my leads are either a homeowner or a renter, because I know that for a fact. All prospects, all family members, all sphere of influence, everybody you know, Mary Beth, don't you think that they would probably want a list power analysis?
Yeah, they probably would.
And did you know that a list power analysis is just a better way to say CMA?
Yeah, for sure.
I've been doing this, and Hank, you know, we've been on calls about this now for a while, right?
Yep.
Have we had agents give feedback about the scripting?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. I've had agents stand up at seminars about converting leads, and they've popped in my script, and I'm like in the background raising my hand going, hey, they're like, hey, it works, Mary Beth. I can tell you right now it works. Okay.
So Nick is going to paste a link to that script.
Correct. It's, by
actually
the way,
found
Mary Beth, that
our
is
help
in your
pages.
support and training tab under search for support. And if you click scripts, it's called the corrective statement. Nick, if you want to add that. And Mary Beth, you can find that script in detail and why it works. But I want to just explain the why it works to you, Mary Beth, because there's some science behind this, okay? So first and foremost, when you call somebody, what your first thing you're trying to do is introduce them. In person, you would never just go, hey, Hank, I noticed you were looking at homes recently. Is there something I can help you buy? Or would you say, I'm Mary Beth, nice to meet you?
I would definitely say, hey, I'm Mary Beth.
Do you notice that people, when they call somebody, never do that?
I always do that.
They launch into the, hey, I noticed you were looking at homes. What do you have for me?
Or
right?
I'm in a real estate agent and I work for such and such. I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
That pushes people away. So what this is called is, it's kind of like an NLP trick. But when you say, hey, I'm in the process of doing something. Hey, by the way, I'm Brian. Nice to meet you. It trains the brain to say, nice to meet you back. And it catches them off guard to now they're receptive to hearing you. And everybody wants to be polite. And so it's really what I call a handshake over the phone. It is the most effective tool for calling people on the phone. Anybody listening in? Hank, I've done countless sales training for hundreds of sales reps. I've done this in movement, mortgage. I've done this across the board hundreds and hundreds of times. So Mary Beth, you want to perfect that. Nice to meet you. And you're going to be amazed at how many conversations you get into on prospects. Okay.
Yes.
The second thing, I have people sending it out in an email, nice to meet you, and they get nice to meet you too. It really works. The second part of the scripting is I'm in the process of doing something for you. So what that does is extend a value prop, because there's value in what you're doing, but it causes the person to give you intent. So for people listening in, I know you all have questions, but trust me when I say this is important for top 5 reasons, this is number 2. So when you say I'm going to put together a list of properties and I have a quick question, I ask a corrective statement. You're a homeowner, right? The brain cannot think about that, Mary Beth. They just answer naturally. But if I were to say, are you a homeowner or renter? It's a personal question that causes people to push away. What this script is designed to do is a pull script. It pulls them into the conversation and it causes intent. They're going to listen to you and they're going to give you their intent, whether they want to really list because you're offering value. And the value you offer is a list power analysis or a rent power analysis. Doesn't every renter want to know how they can buy?
Yeah.
So this script works on every call to any lead that you've never talked to. On every call, you'll get their intent to purchase or buy or what their intent is. So we can get into stage 3 of the most important thing about converting leads. Any questions about that, Mary? Do you find that kind of interesting how simple that was?
Yeah, that was great.
Okay. So the reason I say stage 3 is now that you have a script to engage, now you can organize your leads into the proper buckets.
Hey, Brian, before you get into that,
yes,
there's a question that hits on a really important point about this script.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question about, well, how do I call a lead the next day after I meet them at an open house?
Well, if you meet them at the open house, you already had a conversation with them. So they're further down that stage of intent. They're dropping into your buckets, which is this stage you're talking to. So it's the same thing as I met you at an open house. Really quick, I forgot to ask you yesterday at the open house. You're a homeowner, right? See?
Yes.
It works every time.
Yeah.
I hope that answers their question.
Yeah.
Stop looking for a buyer or seller. Your job, Mary Beth, is to help homeowners list their home someday. You don't know when that day is going to be, right?
True.
The first step to getting them to list their home is to do a list power analysis. That's the only thing that's going to happen. By the way, Mary Beth, I know a lot of agents don't want to work with renters, but guess what renters are? They're first-time home buyers. There's no such thing as a first-time home buyer. They're renters. 33% of renters can buy, they don't know it. So we're missing commission checks because of our false sense of what we're doing when we call, okay?
Yeah.
So your email and your initial scripting should be bucketed into asking questions related to value. So no matter where the lead comes from, would you like a rent power analysis? Would you like a home list power analysis? Questions are what causes people to engage. So no matter what you're doing, you're always asking questions. The reason is so you can put them in the appropriate bucket in your CRM. So Mary Beth, what we want to do is organize our labels or hashtags so that our scripting drives people into the right bucket. Have you ever heard of an agent, and the agents listening in, Hank? They always talk about 90 days out, hot buyers. Nick, we always see that, right? Or Mary Beth, you've done that maybe in the past in your former life and things that you've done in the past. I would hope that you have. Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, how many agents sit there and manage that category? So when a hot buyer, when do they become cold? Do they move into cold? Do they move the 90 days out of the 90 days? It becomes a gigantic waste of time. It hurts your business. It causes you to not convert. So what we're trying to do is have people that we've never talked to, and the goal of that conversation is to find intent. So Hank, how we bucket our leads is very important to conversion. So we want to think about when we talk to leads, knowing, hey, I'm going to, would you like a list power? Are you're a homeowner? So then we want to hashtag homeowner. Does that make sense, Mary Beth?
Yeah.
We want to hashtag renter, credit repair, down payment assistance, things that move people into where they need to be converted. Sphere is not an accurate home database management. Sphere is everybody you've had conversations with because you can influence them. But friends and family hashtag are people you know. Make sense?
Yeah.
So your goal of traffic times lead capture times follow-up is when you get a lead, you know where the lead's coming from. You can put them in the appropriate label or hashtag or source. Now, part of that for tips here, Hank, is that knowing how to filter the leads and saving their filters. I know we do this on every call, but did you know, Mary Beth and kvCORE, it's very easy to create custom filters that your top prospect filters that you want to follow up with daily. You can save them so they're up at the top. Have you ever done that?
No.
Okay. So when you organize your filters, you can create filters based on different things here. So for example, my favorite filter for converting active searches from listing alerts is making sure that I target people that have bookmarked the property. So would you agree, Mary Beth, for the group here, that if someone bookmarks a property, they have probably more intent? Would you agree with that?
I think so.
Okay. So when you go into your marketing CRM, you can say filter leads based on different things like, hey, are they looking at a property recently in the last 7 days, or have they done something? So this is going to tie in an activity. So I can filter by has alerts or saved a property in the last 7 days. You see that?
Yeah, I see it.
So when you save that filter, you go here, and we're doing this for the recording, you hit save, and you go right up to this gearbox and you can enable that filter. Once you do, now you have an active filter that updates every single day based on the bookmark properties recently. You'd be amazed on how many agents don't do that.
That's a great filter.
So then I click on it, and now we can get into the reason you create these filters, Hank, is by scheduling your time right. So in other words, instead of thinking about drip campaigns, you have filters. So maybe Monday, Mary Beth, is your check-in day where you send out your, hey, this is Monday. I'm checking in with everybody that's bookmarked the property in the last 7 days. I'm scheduling times to see those properties. Would you like to see them this week? Let me know. Now, if you sent that out to 100 people that bookmarked the property, guess what you're going to get that week? appointments. People
Yeah.
saying, but we don't do that because we're trying to find a buyer and seller. So what we have to think about on the formula is everything that you do traffic, if you put your people into automatic filters based on that, you can then make follow-up really easy.
Is there some training how to work the filters?
Absolutely. So when you go into kvCORE, you can look up CRM and filtering. But generally, you want to learn, for everybody here, Hank, the most important thing before we get into some of the key lead gen is making sure that you're know how to tag or hashtag and save your filters, Mary Beth. Okay. So if you know how to hashtag, you can save a hashtag up here. If you know how to create a filter and save it, you can create a filter. So you can create all kinds of filters. And once you create a filter, you can do things like, once the filter's created, you can create things like, for example, hashtag that entire filter. Does that make sense at one time?
Yeah.
So Hank, when we're talking nosy neighbor leads or prospects, all of this thing is the same formula, Mary Beth. So if you're doing PropertyBoost, they get labeled in the PropertyBoost. It's organizing your leads into the appropriate source so you can have the right conversion process automated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you
Brian,
want to
you mentioned a couple of things. I don't know if all the folks on here are familiar with it. Are you going to get into PropertyBoost at all, or
say that again?
Are you going to get into PropertyBoost at all, or
yes,
some of these? Okay.
Absolutely, because what we want to do out of this scripting and filtering of leads is where I see agents not setting up a proper success. And then Mary Beth, they don't look at homeowners and renters. So we want to target a couple really good lead gen activities that everybody on the phone can do that came today that will generate quality leads, Hank, or a quality process moving forward through like a nosy neighbor strategy or a boost strategy. So we're going to end on, hey, Mary Beth, after you're done today, in the next 7 days, you're going to generate 50, 60 leads or 40 leads with the click of a button. You can do that in 10 seconds today. Okay. And then now you have the right script and they're going to be put in the right category automatically. And you're going to know that. And for agents, Hank, that want to farm and have the most productive farming program, that's Nosy Neighbor. They can book in the leads they generate now. And if they decide to do some farming in the same area they're boosting in, then they can actually then create an actual super marketing strategy for both farming and homeowner marketing and buyer marketing all at the same time. Okay. I'm sure you might be excited about that, Mary Beth.
Very.
Okay. So understanding the key, there's two other keys that we need to talk about, Hank, on this, and then we'll get into some marketing and advertising and answer questions. That sound good?
Great.
So Mary Beth, the number one key to living die is right here. And the most important thing to converting leads is making sure that you have two things done, because it is the number one thing of keeping your people alive. Okay, Mary Beth. So if you do not give your people food, your consumers food. So what I did is I clicked on business analytics, and you see this button that says core activity, Mary Beth?
Yep.
We're going to click on that, because if your data, which is the most important thing of converting the data, right? If it's not alive, meaning it's not engaging or coming back, you have a dead database, okay?
Yes.
So there's two things that are critical. Would you say that drip campaigns are really excellent at keeping people coming back to you, or is that more people wanting to unsubscribe because you drip them?
Yeah, there's a lot of unsubscribing.
So that would not be a great way. Now, if you know something about the lead, like they have credit repair, then you can put them into appropriate bucket and engage them in a drip. Make sense?
Yeah.
So, but what I can tell you universally is that you see where it says no search alerts right here on the right, unengaged.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Mary Beth, you may not have done this. For everybody listening in, Hank, this is the number one way of converting internet leads. It is the most important thing we do in the formula. It is all that matters. It's life or death. Every lead needs to be on listing alerts and market reports, no matter where they come from. This little unengaged lead tells you who's not on alerts and who's not getting market reports. So Mary Beth, do you have any friends or family in your database yet?
Yes, I do.
Are they on listing alerts?
No, they are not.
Will your friends and family go to Zillow to check out their neighbors' houses?
It's possible.
Yeah, it is. Would your friends and family go to Zillow? Probably. Do you think people that are homeowners that are your friends and family, do you think they'd like to get alerts for their neighborhood?
I think they
Absolutely.
definitely would.
They don't want drip emails about the time change, I promise you. Okay. They already know you're a real estate agent. What they like is people like alerts. They also like market reports. Okay. So the rule of thumb in converting leads is that every person in your database should be on an alert and a market report, because that's the most likely thing that you're going to get them to click on, which then gives you a talking point. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Here, did you know that this little tab, this is people that are being engaged. All that matters is tracking the people that aren't engaged. That is the number one thing to converting. So guess what you can do? You can click on all the agents listening, Hank, and go right here, click on this and pull up every lead that's not engaged. So when we talk about allocating their time, they need to allocate 1 day a week minimum or 1 hour a day where you're engaging prospects based on a target audience you want to market to. That's a prospect list of checking to make sure your people are on alerts, Mary Beth. Make sure that you say once a week, hey, because if they open it up alert, I noticed you open up alert and you're a homeowner. I'm going to do a list, whatever. You're giving a much easier way to manage and convert because you're marketing to people that are opening and it's giving you your audiences that are active. Everybody is your sphere. This is the way to convert your sphere and make sure they stay alive. And simplest thing in the world, it doesn't require you to build any drips, but it's the one thing that consumers consume. Property alerts, that's what Zillow sends, right?
Yeah.
And they allow people to check their value and get reports. So Mary Beth, you have an ecosystem, you have an app, you have a way to send alerts out to your database, and you have a way to organize them in the buckets automatically. So you can spend an hour a week following up with your leads based on the buckets they're in. And if you decide what we're about to do, organize your traffic in different ways, you can then start customizing your traffic sources to drive the leads that you want that are quality by following traffic times lead capture times follow-up equals money. It has to be a systematic approach to what you want to do so you control easily and simply how you follow up and make things easy on, not build drip campaigns. That's hard. I don't want you to learn how to do that. That's not the answer. Okay. Saying what I'm saying, does that seem like an easier approach to you? It may be a little bit too simple. We may think it needs to be harder, but do you see the concept of follow up based on the source of the lead so you can control your communication in a much more simple way?
Yeah, I'm anxious to set up some alerts.
So why don't we do this? So you got one check-in. Today, a to-do for you, Mary Beth, and everybody listening in, is to go into their database and organize how to do a label, how to do a targeted audience, right? And making sure they're checking their alerts. Those are the do with your existing data, okay? Now we're going to talk about setting up a traffic plan for you today, Mary Beth, so that you can control some good lead capture for a way to think about that formula. And I want to give some people listening in some tips on how to drive some really good traffic that I find is very effective and a very effective strategy with little or no work. Okay. Just for the day's conversation. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mary Beth, the number one way to drive leads is listings. And that's both seller and buyer leads. And the easiest way to do that is through boosting. Now, I don't know if you've ever done a property boost. Have you ever boosted through our service?
I have done it at least 4 times.
At least 4 times. And you probably generated some leads. Now, did you do our boost or did you do your own boost?
I did both. I did your property boost and my own, and I did generate leads.
Perfect. So now that we have a script to know, but I want you to know for everybody listening why they all want to do a boost. So Hank, one of the things that I want everybody on this call to do is today log in and do one boost. Now, in the past, agents listening, Hank, they think that we're trying to get their money, and that's not the case. They're kvCORE users, and every lead that they generate is private. Did you know that when you generate a lead on our system, you're generating a private lead for your business?
Yes.
So boosting is creating and I'll just click on it. When you do, you can click on lead engine and click on property boost, or you can click on a listing, but there's multiple ways to boost. And you can boost a listing of yours, a listing in the company, or Mary Beth, you can boost without a property now. So you don't even need a listing to boost. So it is by far the most productive way I find to generate the best quality leads for the least amount of money. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we click on this property, and again, all the Hank, we have all the trainings in the world on boosting. All they got to do is go into their support, look up property boost, go in the marketplace, click on boost. There's plenty of training for boosting, but I want the agents on this call to know how easy this is and the why, because it follows the formula. So when you click on property boost here, usually you're picking a 3-day or a 1-week boost, open house price reduced. Do you see that, Mary?
Yes.
And then when you pick the boost, I want everybody here to know, a lot of times they don't know what this is. What you're doing, Mary, is you're doing a geo-targeted around 25 miles around the house, okay? And Nick, if you want to feed in some topics on this, if you want to give some consult on this, you can jump in. And then what it does is it's people looking outside that area or people who live in that area. Now, if you have traffic that lives locally that goes into Google or Zillow, and you know how when people do that, I've been looking at fly fishing, I get a bunch of fly fishing ads. When people are out there on the internet and they go back to Facebook, they see an ad for a property or listings for sale in the area they Googled. That's no different than the Google traffic. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
But that cost for leads may be $1 to $5 a lead as opposed to $10 to $20 a lead. It's the same people, but they're hyper local. So let me ask you, Mary Beth, if you were a homeowner and you were looking to buy a house locally within that 25-mile area, and then you clicked on your Facebook ad and you registered your name and email, you have a local person that's searching locally at homes, but also probably owns a house. What does that tell you about your boost leads that maybe you didn't think about in the past?
That they know the market.
But if I'm a homeowner looking at homes for sale, what does that tell me? I'm probably going to be selling my house.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So the reason, Hank, that agents sometimes struggle on their scripting is not understanding the traffic. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
So when you're doing your boost, everybody here, the reason, Mary Beth, that you want to do a boost once a week or at least a few times a month is you're actually picking an area that you want to dominate local traffic in and boost for possible homeowners and listed leads and buyer leads at the same time. That's why these leads have more value. That's why I said you have to have the right open script. That's why when they boost, they go into an automatic campaign. But now you're thinking that this is a local homeowner and a buyer. So when you use my script, you're saying, hey, I noticed that you click on this listing. You're a homeowner, right? You're more likely to get them to say yes. And you know they were looking for homes for sale. That is why this is the most quality lead that you can get. It has the highest commissionable opportunity because it's a local person. It's a people lead, but most of the time they're local. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does it give you a better outlook on why boosting is a better option now?
Yes.
Perfect. So everybody on this call, when you go into boost, you are going to be generating leads in the next 7 days. You have a script that you could use. You can create a custom audience, and they tend to be a local person, so they have more value long-term. So Hank, looking at the source of the traffic, understanding why they were captured, so you have the right follow-up so that they're on alerts for the area. And Mary Beth, you know where the property was boosted, so you can put them on market reports. That's what a click funnel is. That is what a complete top 5 ways to market and convert is by controlling the formula for success. Now, Mary Beth, have you ever farmed?
Yes.
So we also have in our database Nosy Neighbor, which is the best ever farming tool. And it is farming, but I'm not here to pitch that, but I want people to understand, for those of you that want to boost in a neighborhood, Mary Beth, you can also farm that same neighborhood so that you're double ending a long-term strategy, and farming is long-term, but you want farming that's a complete sentence. So you go into your marketplace here, and those of you that want a productive farm that's automated, you should be looking at Nosy Neighbor. Now, I don't know if you've ever looked at this yet, but Mary Beth, I just want to give you kind of a real quick overview of it. Again, Hank, this is not meant to pitch them. It's meant to understand that there's ways that this is a formula and how to understand how to use that formula. So Mary Beth, Nosy Neighbor, as I click here, there's a video about it, okay? You can schedule a time to learn more. By the way, you'd probably be scheduled into my calendar. And get more zip codes, you go to nosyneighbor.com. Let's look up one so you can kind of, for the group, to understand conversion and what this means. So let's look up your zip code, Mary Beth, or one of your top zip codes.
28105.
28105. Now, these zip codes are exclusive because they have to be. This is available. This means that you have about, that's a great zip code, by the way. You have 15,000 households in this area, Mary Beth. So what Nosy Neighbor does, it takes the data from all of these households in your zip code, and it creates an automatic farming tool and an app to drive people to your own postcards on listing events that happen within this zip code. So imagine, Mary Beth, that every single listing or sold that happened within this zip code, all hundreds of them every year, you sent postcards out to the nearest neighbors, but you didn't have to sit the postcard out. You didn't have to lick the stamp. It happened automatically on everybody's listing in that zip code, not even just yours, but Keller Williams, Caldwell Banker, and you owned it exclusively. That's positive, right?
Yeah.
Good idea. Now, within that zip code and that postcard, there's an automatic capture postcard code they scan that goes to a landing page where they can say, I'd like more information, which captures that lead, puts it into your kvCORE system, and kicks off your automatic listing alerts and property alerts, and kicks them into your dialer and your follow-up process that you have a script now for. So for agents that want to farm, but want to have that complete follow-up process, Hank, if you want to add some to this, Nosy Neighbor is a great way to do this entire script and conversion process for farming. It's all automated. PropertyBoost is automated. So what I wanted agents to know is that there are ways to automate their traffic programs and lead programs with this scripting, with the follow-up process, Mary Beth, without having to do any work. Make sense?
Yes.
So let's go through kind of an overview of that, and then we'll be questions and answers. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. So when you log into your kvCORE and you want to set up a traffic program, you can do it through listings, through PropertyBoost, through your lead engine, through your landing pages, through your squeeze pages. Everything that you do, Mary Beth, to create a lead page or single property page, you're going to notice something about these pages. You can create the lead capture page. You can then automatically put them into your label, hashtag, which automatically can kick off your follow-up process. Do you notice a theme here?
Yeah.
You never really, nobody thinks about this, Hank, but everything about kvCORE's marketing is about driving traffic to a landing page or squeeze page, about driving them into a follow-up label so that automation of follow-up can happen. Traffic times lead capture times follow-up equals money. There's a formula for this. And Hank, and everybody, Nick, Mary Beth, when you get leads on kvCORE, it automatically puts them in listing alerts, and you have an automatic way of tracking that. So whenever you're creating a lead program, if you do it yourself manually, Mary Beth, you want to make sure that you automate those three components. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have the script. It's not complicated. And then every week you follow up with who you follow up with, and you do the calls you're supposed to call. It's pretty ingenious. The reason that agents struggle is they do not know how to generate traffic, and they don't know the importance of creating a ClickFunnels system. Okay. There's your call capture, squeeze page, landing page, and then you have a marketplace. So you can do Nosy Neighbor, you can do Google ads, you can do Google Facebook ads, you can do free marketing through landing pages, through Facebook posting, and there's trainings on all of the things I mentioned. Everything. So if you guys haven't done any of those trainings, Nick is going to add. So we have a success plan with a week training of traffic and all the things we talked about today. We have scripting that's in place for you. We have trainings on Nosy Neighbor, PropertyBoost, Hank, and all of our traffic programs in Marketplace, right? We have trainings on all of that. Would you agree with everybody listening in?
100%.
Everything we talked about is trained on. So Mary Beth, what questions do you have that might be helpful for the group? And then Nick, I'd love to answer any hand raisers right now before we jump off.
I would like to have more information on creating landing pages for events to drive, people to your event so you can get leads.
So let's have this. That's a great question. I'm going to walk you through that because probably other people are having a question. So I'm going to give you a rule of thumb that everybody, Hank, and I've done this in person, can relate to when I do this training in person. Mary Beth, have you ever planned a party?
Yes.
So when you plan a party, you have to decide who you want to invite. Think of your event, okay?
Right.
And then when you decide who you want to invite, you want to then send an invitation out.
Yes.
So you can capture their information. So you can invite them to future parties. That is all you're doing. Landing page is just your invitation to the party. The squeeze page is just your invitation. Your text code on your business card is your invitation to the party, okay? So when you think about, and I'll just walk you through one I've done recently for an agent, just an event, and I'll walk you through it. Hank, I had a recent agent that said, what do I like to do? And she said, I like to play pickleball. So I said, great. And she had Nosy Neighbor for a zip code, Mary Beth.
Yeah.
So it was owning all of the activities in that zip code. So not only getting the nosy leads, but inviting them to events that's helping her convert. So when she has a zip code, you own it, and then do events in that zip code, like the PTA. So she did a pickleball tournament. So let me just move this out of the way and play pickleball for wounded warriors. That was her event. Okay. Date, time for this. That was her hashtag. And then on the submit RSVP. Okay. And that creates that web page link up at the top. And then when you go to like an event, like say Facebook, for example, and you want to then advertise that, or Instagram, make sense, Mary Beth, or any social media, you can come into your Facebook page. And you live in Houston? Where do you live?
I live in Matthews, North Carolina.
Matthews, North Carolina. Okay. So when you think about pickleball, you can go Matthews pickleball or pickleball groups. Does that make sense for your local area?
Yes.
And then you can go to one of your pickleball courts and join, tell them that you'd like to do a charity event. They'll love you for it. Okay. You can get sponsors like Mintner Lender to sponsor the event. And when you send it out on a landing page to your brand, you're not going to get flagged in those groups, by the way. Okay.
Yeah.
And everything I just showed you, did you know that we have a training specifically for what we just talked about?
Yes, I have seen it briefly.
So it's in your success plan. So if you come into your dashboard here, everything I'm talking about on this training is part of your kvCORE, but sometimes we don't understand the concept, right, Mary Beth? Sometimes we don't get the complete picture, right? So when you come into your kvCORE dashboard, I'll just pull that up really quick. You click on your dashboard here, and Nick is probably going to put some links into that for your topic, but your agent success plan, there's also in your training calendar, the same thing. Every day we have different trainings, right, on all of this stuff, Hank. Agents don't often know what they need to be trained on. But if you go to your week 3 training, and I'll give you a couple places to look. So you go to week 3 and introduction here. And we'll go to the handout. And in your week 3 training, it says niche-based strategies, and it'll say Facebook free leads, and shows you how to create niche strategies and landing pages and squeeze pages for this type of thing. It is by far the best way to generate good quality leads without spending money. See? Week 3, Facebook posts, squeeze pages, and landing pages, driving niches like charity events, wine dine, a Halloween costume contest. Okay, I've done them all for 15 years, Mary Beth.
Yeah.
And so taking these tools and these strategies, we have built this into kvCORE. So there's really no excuses to have fun. Lead gen is about having fun, Hank. It's about
meeting people.
And that's the business we're in. So Mary Beth, I've had conversations with people at parties, and I'll throw an event and I'll have a realtor there as a sponsor, and I'll say, hi, everybody. Mary Beth is my sponsor for this party for charity. And Mary Beth is a real estate agent for HomeSmart. Say hi to Mary. By the way, how many homeowners do we have in the room? How many renters? Mary Beth has a great list power analysis. Mary Beth has a rent power analysis. And guess what Mary Beth ends up getting? Deals at every party I throw. Every time, Hank. PropertyBoost, Facebook, social media. You have to allocate your time, Mary Beth, to at least once a day to one channel. So once a day to follow up, once a day to your marketing strategy, and once a day to create your communication. You get where I'm going with this, okay?
Yeah.
So that's the key to success in the because you're following that formula. What other questions do we have from the group that maybe me and Mary Beth can answer together, Hank?
Let's get a we've got a hand raiser here. Let's bring in Ray.
Hey, Ray.
Can you hear me? Okay?
Welcome.
Yes, sir. Thanks. Yeah,
What can I answer for you, Ray?
I just imported a bunch of contacts, and I got 2 emails last night. It says meeting Merrill, lead import, screen share, but I can't find the information for that person or the other one. So I'm just curious how to find it.
I'll have Nick ping you directly offline, or anybody's support to do that question. But that's a good point that I wanted to illustrate for you, Ray, to answer your question related to your database you imported. I want to finish on this topic. So when you import a database, Ray, into your data, you are importing traffic, not prospects, because that's just another form of traffic. Your database import is your existing leads you have or prospects you have today. So you're not asking them to become a lead. You might create a landing page that says a Facebook chat for the end of the week, or you might create a Zoom property thing, or you might say, I'm going to do a real live evaluation for a home. You'd be amazed on how many people come, but you're trying to use, just like we're doing with you. You are traffic for me. We're trying to provide a Zoom meeting for operations for that. So what I would encourage you to do with your lead import is take a step back from that. Go into your lead import and make sure that you make sure you have a process to put them on listing alerts and market reports, but also make sure you ping them, hey, and just, I'm going to do something for you. By the way, in my scripting, Ray, it's called obligation scripting for your database. It's lead conversion. So when you're following up with that database, just remember when you're emailing it, I'm going to do a list power analysis, or I'm going to put together a list of properties that are the most looked at, or I'm going to do something. Would you like it done by this date? You don't have to do it unless they respond, but by saying you're going to do something, would you like it done? You're obligating your database to respond to that value prop, which makes them obligated to answer your question. And that promotes reciprocity. So what I would do is sit down about things in your database that you imported and think about the things like, I'm going to do this. What would be a great thing to say? Would you like it done? And create a once a week hour where you organize that data into what you want to do for that to create intent. And it's very effective to do. I'm going to do something for you. If you're a renter, I'm going to do a list power analysis for all renters. Would you like me to send that to you? Or I'm going to put together the top 5 ways to do credit repair. You have access to that type of thing, Ray. And by saying you're going to do something and asking, would you like me to do it? You'll have a much higher conversion rate on all your database.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great. Ray, Mary Beth, thank you for joining us today. Brian, thank you again for sharing all your experience with us.
I love some
Um,
feedback because people can see the feedback and questions. This is the first time we're doing this, Hank. We're going to be doing this over and over again. We're going to be perfecting our messaging. It may change next time we do it. And as we record this, we want to make sure we perfect it. I wanted some feedback. Thumbs up. Do you guys find this helpful? This is going to help Hank perfect this message that we're doing about all of our clients, making sure that they have a very simplistic way to convert leads. I hope you found it effective next time. I'll probably do it a little different, but go out and do a boost. Go out and look at your farming. Get involved in your marketplace, right, Hank? Put a strategy to increase your marketing. Everybody on this call should be generating 30 to 40 leads per week. You guys should be farming zip codes exclusively. You should be doing something to get you in front of people because that's your job. And we automate a lot of the processes. Come back next time and learn more, or start taking the courses around lead gen or around boosting or around Nosy Neighbor. You're going to then gen a consistent flow of new prospects so you can use these techniques.
Yeah, awesome. We're getting a lot of good feedback in the chat. We'll also be sending out a survey to go along with this, just to allow people another chance.
The feedback is very helpful for everybody to perfect this. I've been trying to do this for a long time now, Hank, for the company, a consistent process like this. So I want to thank everybody for coming, and we're going to make sure that everybody has a really good success plan on how to convert leads in the future. And we're going to keep building on these techniques. And also for those of you that came to this meeting, Nick is on this call, and as you engage with him, he's part of our email journey. If you find something that works well, share it, right, Hank? If you're an agent, share it. This is a collective audience. We're all in this together. We are an ecosystem. We're here for you.
Yeah, awesome. Great.
Thank you for everybody.
Thanks, everybody. And we will be sending out a recording of this sometime within the next 48 hours, probably by tomorrow evening.
Thanks, Hank.
Thanks everyone.
Mary, thank you. Ray, thank you so much. I appreciate your participation. Thank you so much.